From the NewsChannel 5 network, this is Open Line.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Open Line. Glad you're with us tonight. We have a great topic. We're talking about the future of Nashville arts and theater. Obviously, it's been a very tough period here with COVID. There have been shutdowns, and so where are things now as we begin to emerge from COVID? What has the last year been like? We're talking with three pillars of our arts community, and they are joining us all on Zoom, as all of our guests do. We're going to continue to do that. But let me bring up our guests. We have with us Jennifer Turner. She is TPAC President and CEO. We have Lisa French. She is the Nashville Ballet Executive Director. And we have Stephanie Silverman, the Executive Director of the Belcourt Theater. Thank you all for being with us.
Thanks for having us.
And so let me start. I'll start with, let's start with TPAC. Let's start with Jennifer Turner. And I'm going to ask each of you this in succession. Kind of where are you right now? We're beginning to re-emerge from COVID. What's going on with TPAC in the next couple of weeks, months? Just give us a quick overview. Jennifer Turner.
We have just announced our Broadway season, and we open in October of 21. So we're very, very excited. Our subscriptions went on sale last Monday, and there seems to be a huge demand to get back into the theater. So we're absolutely thrilled. And this Saturday, we are kicking off our first live performance in the theater since COVID. We are doing a cabaret series with Studio 10, and our first guest is Susan Egan. So it is a completely on-stage experience. So the guests and Susan will all be on stage together. And those tickets were in high demand as well. So we're excited that the people are thrilled to get back into the space.
All right, that's great. And that's what I want to do with each of you. And so Lisa French, Nashville Ballet, I know you have something big coming up, but kind of where are you right now?
Absolutely. Well, we have our big return to live performance coming up this weekend at Ascend Amphitheater. So we are so excited. It has been a challenging year for so many, but excited to be bringing back our dancers to an outdoor performance at Ascend this weekend, Friday and Saturday night. It will be limited capacity, so less than about 30% of Ascend with seats available, and of course masks required, and prioritizing the safety of all of our guests and artists and whatnot. So in terms of our plans for next season, we're putting the final touches on that now, and we'll be announcing shortly our full plans for our 21-22 season, but really optimistic about the future and the return of arts to Nashville here.
And fascinating to think about ballet outside at Ascend. I really think that's a cool thing. Has that ever happened? Have you ever had ballet in Nashville outside? Have we ever done anything like that?
Not to our knowledge, so and certainly not on that scale. So we are really excited about this partnership with Ascend and being able to return in this way.
That's great. And Stephanie Silverman, where are we now with the Belcourt?
Well, the Belcourt reopened on April 23rd, so we've got a few weeks of operating again under our belt. And, you know, we have, of course, a greatly reduced capacity right now. We're sort of operating with pretty conservative policies in place right now, certainly masking. But we've been so excited to see screening after screening sell out. I think one of the fun things for us to have seen, in addition to new films that haven't been on any of the platforms in your home, we're seeing people come out to see films like Minari and Nomadland. We've been running, of course, the Academy Award nominees. And they've been in people's houses for months and months and months at this point, but they are coming out and buying tickets to see them on the big screen. And, you know, just echoing, I think, what both Lisa and Jennifer are seeing is the anticipation and the excitement about gathering together and having a shared creative experience is pretty huge right now.
I agree. I cannot wait. I love movies, and it's going to be so weird to watch a movie and not have my kids come in the middle of it. And I don't know if you can somehow redo that, but let's not even do that. I love that you're back open. I'm glad that it's going well. And I want to start asking each of you, you know, what COVID was obviously very difficult. Do you think it's going to change what you do? And I'll start with TPAC. You know, does it change theater? And I'm sure you've had discussions about this over the past year. And how might it change theater? You know, it's maybe too early to know, but I've read this article here, you know, perspectives on COVID-19, improvising theater in a pandemic. And so obviously you've had to make some big changes. I'm sure we'll get back to normal, but how does this change theater, if it does? And Jennifer, what about that?
Well, I think that we've noticed that there's a great appreciation for the live experience, and that although, you know, we have embraced, you know, going virtual and having these experiences virtually, we all are looking forward to being back together and experiencing theater live and experiencing it together. One, though, I think positive that we've noticed that we've been able to take from this is that we've done a great deal of pivoting to the virtual space for all of our education programs. We even held our 40th anniversary over a digital format, and we've created 3 movies, including our 40th. And we've been able to reach a lot more people digitally. Our events have been seen in other countries, all over the country. And also, we've been able to reach 17 more Tennessee counties than we had previously with our education programs. And so the access to the arts is a big, you know, it's an important thing for us, and we are always striving to, you know, reach as many people as possible. So if we can find going forward some way to capture, you know, this experience of arts that we can deliver virtually to people who don't have access to come to the space, I think that we're going to try to find some hybrid way of adapting our programs moving forward. But I don't think that digital will ever replace the experience of live performance or, you know, experiencing the arts with others sitting and being around you.
Yeah, that's interesting. And I know with a lot of churches, obviously churches have been live streaming their services, and there are a lot of people that want that to continue. And I don't know if that works with arts. Maybe it does. It's interesting what you're talking about, trying to get it to people who wouldn't otherwise get it. But as far as ballet, what about things like live streaming? You'd have to, you know, pay something, maybe less than being there live in person. But are those kind of things being thought about? What about that?
Absolutely. I totally agree, Jennifer, with what you just said in terms of, I think nothing will replace the live experience. So I think that is something we're all just so eager to get back to as we look ahead. But I definitely think we've learned a ton this year from a digital standpoint and how to translate our mission and our art forms into that digital space and increase access to many that we might not otherwise be able to connect with. So as we look ahead at the ballet, I know that is something that is front and center in our mind about how to continue this digital work and to continue to make those opportunities available. We're looking at especially curated a digital season that might be programs that are just created for that digital space, separate from what we might be doing at TPAC or other in-person performances. So I think it's really broadened our view of what and how to deliver our mission and how to create connection and how to create community on a lot of different fronts. So I think we're overall really optimistic and hopeful that that will be a whole new way to engage the community moving forward.
And let me ask the obvious question, and Stephanie, I'll start with you. Just this past year financially for each of you, what impact has it had, and how have you gotten through it? And so, Stephanie, I'll start with you.
Well, I would call it a decimating impact. It's been profound. The Belcourt, in a typical year, we're about a $3 million annual organization in terms of our operating budget. We earn 70 to 75% of that in admissions, in concessions, and all of the things that make our organization work, along with contributions and memberships. So that just went away. We have, you know, spent this year, as I'm sure my colleagues have, fundraising a lot. And I just cannot express more gratitude for the generosity that we have seen from this community. It has been remarkable and has been really life-saving for us. We, of course, access things like PPP. We're now in the waiting game to hear about the Shuttered Venue Operators Grant. I know Jennifer's right there with me. So, you know, we really have worked to access funds as they became available. The city put some funds towards arts and culture, which was great. We were able to access some state funds. but it really was a jigsaw puzzle that was just really about keeping your head above water for a while. And we made the decision early on to keep all our staff on board, both full and part-time, because especially our part-time staff felt the most vulnerable to us, largely a group of working artists, whether they're visual artists or musicians or performers. So they really didn't have a lot of safety net behind them. So we were in a lucky position when this happened. We had a pretty strong cash position, but you know, you don't want to start the beginning of a pandemic recovery with a $0 bank account. So it's really been a juggling act.
Well, and I'll ask a follow-up question to you that I'll also ask to the others. But what about staff? I've worried about the staff, and how did they do there at the Belcourt? And how did you said you made the decision to keep them on? How did you do that?
We raised money. That's it. It really was contribution based and PPPs. We have 2 of them now, and a lot of our full-time staff kept very busy. Because we did pivot to virtual programming pretty immediately. We moved our education programs online. Then at the end of the summer, we ran a drive-in. So there were like little bits and pieces of actual work, even for the front of house and projection team. But you know, it's been a hard year. It's been a hard year for the Nashville community of artists, in addition to our arts organizations. And I know a lot of our employees, I mean, Lisa really knows, you know, that's who they are. They're artists who make their living in Nashville, and it's been a terrible year.
Yeah, really difficult. Lisa, same question to you about financial impact of the past year.
Absolutely. So I echo all of what Stephanie, you just said. It's been such a challenging year overall, especially from an earned income standpoint. So completely echo in terms of the generosity of Nashville and of our donors, and so grateful for that support, and also the government support that's been able through PPPs and other channels to be able to help keep as many of our employees employed as we could. But no doubt Nashville Ballet felt a big impact. Our budget reduced by about 1/3 going into this year. And, you know, the work changed, right? We moved from what we've done for years and years, and we were pivoting, as we like to say, and I'll friend things 2020, 2021 here. But just have been so impressed with the team and the way we've all come together, both within Nashville Ballet, but really across the arts community, to get through this together. And I'm confident we're going to come out on the other side strong here. So
I
really
believe
grateful.
so too. I believe you will come out strong. People are eager to get back. And then my follow-up question is the same about employees. I guess tell me a little bit about how employees work. How many do you have? You know, the ballet dancers full time, and obviously they weren't performing. What did you do for them, and what impact did it have on the performers?
Yeah, that was a real priority of our board and of our leadership team as we looked at this year, was to keep as many employees employed, especially our dancers. We wanted to keep our artists doing what they love, which is dancing, and it was scaled back slightly this year, but really they were busy. You know, we had all new protocols. They were being tested weekly. We have masking, and try dancing in a mask. That's a whole different realm to be navigating. They're working in pods, so we had them in smaller groupings just from a safety standpoint, and working with our health partners to figure out how safely to have them return. But they were really busy. We did a lot of digital content. We filmed our Nashville's Nutcracker and had that broadcast on NewsChannel 5 this winter, which was wonderful.
That's right.
And so it was just a very different year, but they were such great partners, our dancers. And the ability to keep them dancing, I think, is something that we're all so proud of through all of this. And you know, it's certainly been a trying year for everybody, though. And I know our dancers are eager to be able to dance without those masks at some point here.
And this next event at Ascend, that's going to be really cool. And then Jennifer, same question to you: financial impact of this past year.
Devastating. And I cannot echo Stephanie and Lisa enough. The generosity of our donor base and new donors has been absolutely remarkable. We started a recovery fund right away in April after the pandemic started. Like Stephanie, we are primarily earned income. You know, our contributed is, significant, but it's also a lot of that is based around ticket sales and access to Broadway seating. And so it was very difficult. We had just come off of a sold out pre-run of Hamilton, so our cash position was fairly strong. But we also accessed, the PPP, and we are waiting on a determination for our shuttered venues grant application. We were not as fortunate. We weren't able to keep as many staff. Being a large organization, our budget size is about 28 to 30 million, depending on the year. So we had to, unfortunately, we lost some staff early on in the pandemic. But we were able to keep a lot of teaching artists employed, which was very, very important to us. This has been a horrible, horrible experience for our artistic community here. So the fact that we could pivot all of our education programs to virtual and utilize teaching artists, not only in our education programs, but we also featured some of our community partners and artists working on our salon series. And we were able to compensate artists for their time. But it really has been a difficult year. And although we're starting to see some optimism and some hope ahead, we're still looking at this next year as a recovery year. We have to build back these organizations that have been, so damaged during this pandemic. And our employees have been through a really hard time. I mean, we're used to, being, all of us that have been working in theater our entire careers, we're used to being in the theater every single day. And for, us to be in front of a Zoom screen all day, it's just not the same. And so there's going to be a lot of culture building and reconnecting and just relearning some of those skills that that have been, we've been unable to use over the past year.
And my follow-up question to you about employees is a little different. I saw that Broadway is talking about reopening some shows. So in New York on Broadway, some shows are going to reopen. Obviously, many of the shows that I think of at TPAC, they're these touring shows. And so obviously it's impacted them. They haven't been touring, I'm sure. Are they getting back up and running? And what's kind of the impact on them and the time frame for them?
Yes, we've been following, obviously staying very connected and rescheduling tours. We had made an attempt to try and reopen for February. We hadn't announced anything, but we were trying desperately to get back open for this past February, which seems a long time ago right now. But we couldn't get the touring industry tried, but we couldn't get, the consistency across all of the markets to be able, and the safety, it wasn't safe. I mean, the entire country went through a really difficult period of COVID right after the holidays. And so it just wasn't safe to reopen. So we focused more on the fall, and everything is aligning pretty nicely at this point. Numbers are going down across the country. The vaccination rates are rising, and hopefully they will continue to rise. We've been working all year on protocols that will be implemented in all of our venues, but also with touring shows and unions across the country. And so Broadway has announced their reopening in September. There's going to be probably about 5 to 6 shows per month that open in New York, and the tours are starting to launch. And so it looks like the big shows are going to be going out in September. Our first show is in October. So if all goes well, we are looking forward to the fall reopening of not only Broadway in New York, but also Broadway across the country.
That's great. Okay, well, that sets the table for our discussion. Now we'll open the phone lines. If you want to call in, there's the number, 615-737-PLUS, 615-737-7587. We'll take a break. We'll continue our discussion right after this.